I know it sounds crazy. At one point, some people are like, what's going on with Antarctica?
His squadron flew under the Earth, into the Earth.
It turns into this lush and green area, and he can't even believe his eyes. But that's just the beginning of his extraordinary story.
The coldest place on Earth might hold the hottest secrets.
Rumors of extraterrestrial activity in Antarctica have circulated for years.
Deep under Antarctica's blanket of ice, Joe Rogan has stirred talk of a hidden alien cover-up.
And that's where they say Eisenhower made a deal with these aliens.
While explorers have found strange structures and ancient artifacts that challenge what we knew.
Several websites say the pyramids were likely made by an intelligent human civilization long ago.
Some even whisper that President Eisenhower made a secret deal with aliens here. Let's pull back the ice and uncover the South Pole's creepiest hidden truths. The ice holes of Antarctica. You're standing in the frozen silence of the South Pole, the kind of place where even your breath feels like it might freeze before it hits the air. Out there, something happens that sounds less like science and more like the opening scene of a John Carpenter film. For decades, scientists have been scratching their heads over these enormous sudden gaps in the ice. Huinas, they call them. Imagine holes so big they could swallow a small country, appearing where there should be nothing but endless white. The first time satellites spotted one was back in the 1970s, just a giant hole in the middle of the Weddell Sea. And then, poof, gone by summer. Fast forward to 2018. In the dead of winter, when the ice should be at its thickest, a hole nearly 3,700 square miles wide rips open in the ice. In just 2 months, it balloons by another 740 square miles before slowly disappearing again. Scientists eventually linked these strange openings to ferocious cyclonic storms, winds whipping at 72 miles an hour, and waves the height of a 5-story building smashing through the Antarctic ice. But here's the thing, these holes aren't just strange oddities, they're lifelines. Open doors between the ocean and sky where seals pop up, penguins dive in, and microscopic life thrives. They also ripple into the climate system itself. And if climate change fuels stronger polar cyclones, we might see these poinas far more often, messing with climate patterns in ways we still don't fully understand. Now, that's the science. But in 2018, a journalist got a tip from someone who'd worked at the South Pole. A story that sounds like it came from somewhere way beyond the scientific journals. Back in 2003, this anonymous source was on what was supposed to be a research trip, only it wasn't. It was a cover for something else. While out in the field, they came across a massive, dark structure jutting out of the ice. Not natural, not like anything they'd seen. Pushing on a huge square panel made it slide into the wall, revealing a hallway bathed in an eerie green glow. No visible lights, just this strange, unnatural illumination. The walls covered in hieroglyphics that no one could identify. If you think that sounds far-fetched, well, Antarctica is the last place on Earth where something could stay hidden for centuries. The pyramids of Antarctica. Just imagine yourself at the edge of the world, where the wind cuts like glass, and the horizon is nothing but endless white. Then someone whispers in your ear, beneath all this ice, they say something impossible is buried. Not just big, as in unusual, big as in massive, triangular structures jutting out of the ice. Some say they're the work of a mysterious ancient group. Others whisper about visitors from far beyond Earth. Back in 2009, satellite images caught something strange, a giant pyramid, right here in the frozen wasteland.
In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we're looking into an image from Google Earth, Antarctica, that some people claim clearly has pyramids covered in snow.
4 perfect triangular faces, crisp lines, the kind of symmetry you don't just stumble upon in nature. It looked so much like the pyramids in Egypt, you could almost expect to see hieroglyphs carved into the side. Now, Antarctica isn't exactly prime real estate for grand architecture. Brutal winds, miles of ice, and temperatures that could freeze your eyelids shut, which makes the pyramid's presence all the more bizarre. If it's real, it suggests something, someone, was building here long before this land turned into a sheet of ice. Then, in 2016, things got even stranger. 3 massive triangular formations popped up in public satellite data, one of them soaring over 4,000 feet high. For perspective, that's more than 10 times taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Officially, the government says they're just natural mountains shaped by the wind. Unofficially, people aren't buying it. These shapes are too precise, too deliberate, which has fueled theories about a long-lost civilization, maybe even the Anunnaki, that could have been here 100 million years ago. And if Antarctica once sat somewhere warmer, more central on the globe, that's not as crazy as it sounds. But here's the part that'll really get you thinking.
There have been a number of reports of pyramids, huge Great Pyramids.
Some believe these sites are deliberately hidden from Google Earth and other mapping tools. If that's true, then they're not just covering up a geological oddity. They're guarding something much bigger. Secrets of ancient history, advanced technology, a source of unlimited energy, maybe even something that could rewrite everything we know about our past. Out here, in the silent heart of Antarctica, the answers might still be waiting. Discovery of new species. What would run through your mind if you drilled nearly 1/3 of a mile into Antarctica's frozen depths, only to find something alive staring back at you? In 2021, that's exactly what a group of New Zealand scientists experienced on the Larsen Ice Shelf. Using a hot water hose, they cut through about 1,640 feet of solid ice. When the hole was ready, they lowered a camera, expecting to see nothing but cold, empty water. But the feed kept getting blocked. At first, they thought the lens was broken. Then they saw the real reason. Hundreds of tiny shrimp-like creatures darting in front of the camera. They were amphipods, small shellfish, thriving deep beneath the ice, where no one expected life to exist. It was a discovery no human eyes had ever seen before. Now, there's another theory about what might be hiding under Antarctica. Something much bigger. In January 2019, NASA announced the detection of 2 massive craters deep under the ice. Scientists say they were probably formed by an asteroid millions of years ago, possibly the same one that wiped out the dinosaurs. But some people believe they're secret entrances to an underground world. According to this theory, there's a hidden base under the ice, similar to ones used during World War II. And no, it doesn't stop there. Some claim that inside the Earth lies a tropical paradise reserved for the world's most powerful and wealthy, a place of luxury and secrecy far removed from the frozen surface. Stories like this often link back to Operation High Jump, a 1946 to 1947 mission led by Admiral Richard Byrd.
A U.S. scientific expedition called Operation High Jump departs for the South Pole.
Officially, it was about building a research base and training for extreme cold. Unofficially, some say it was a military mission to investigate a hidden society under the ice. The legend says Byrd's team flew into a vast underground space known as the Crystal City, where they encountered lush forests, strange aircraft, and even extraterrestrial beings. Byrd supposedly recorded these experiences in a journal, one that only surfaced years later. And those craters? Not everyone agrees they're asteroid scars or secret entrances to a hollow Earth. UFO researcher Scott Waring believes one crater was caused by a massive UFO crash. He claims the government now uses it to store other alien craft and hide evidence of extraterrestrial life. Waring even says he once saw an unedited image showing the UFO before it was wiped from the internet.
Probably between remnants of the Third Reich and perhaps extraterrestrials as well.
The unusual signals. Have you ever heard about a balloon over Antarctica that might have picked up something from another universe? Sounds like the setup to a bad sci-fi movie, right? But this happened. NASA funded a project called the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, ANITA for short. Imagine a cluster of antennas strapped to a massive balloon drifting high above Antarctica, scanning the frozen continent for radio signals from high-energy particles hitting Earth from space. Here's where it gets strange. On two separate flights, one in 2006 and another in 2014, Anita picked up signals that shouldn't have been there. They didn't come from above, like you'd expect. They seemed to come from beneath the ice. To double-check, scientists turned to another instrument, Ice Cube. It's not a drink cooler. It's a neutrino telescope buried deep near the South Pole.
There were shock waves in 2018 when we realized that a strange form of radiation was coming from the South Pole.
Its sensors can spot the faint flashes of light produced when particles pass through solid ice.
High-energy neutrinos to be raining down from the sky.
The logic was simple. If Anita's signals were from space, Ice Cube should have seen them too. But over 8 years of data? Nothing. Not one matching signal. Justin Vandenbroek, a physicist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, put it plainly. If the signals were cosmic, Ice Cube should have caught them. But it didn't. So what's going on? Some think the signals might be radio waves bouncing through hidden caves or liquid lakes under the ice. Others whisper about dark matter, the invisible stuff that makes up most of the universe, yet has never been directly detected. And then there's the wild theory that these particles are coming from a parallel universe. Not a metaphorical one, but an actual mirrored copy of our own. That would explain why the signals appear to rise from the ice instead of fall from the sky. Now, if you connect this to older discussions about Antarctica, possibly hiding traces of advanced civilizations, even Atlantis, things get even more interesting. We know Antarctica wasn't always a frozen wasteland. Long ago, it sat closer to the equator, with a warm climate where life could thrive. Some historians, like Charles Hopgood, suggest the Atlanteans lived there before the Earth's climate shifted. As the ice closed in, they migrated, possibly influencing the Aztec, Mayan, and Egyptian civilizations. That could explain why these cultures share bizarre similarities in architecture, engineering, and knowledge far beyond their era. So maybe, just maybe, the signals Anita caught aren't just a physics puzzle. Ghost Mountains. Surrounded by an endless white horizon, you stand on the deck of an icebreaker with the cold slicing through the air. You would expect Antarctica to be flat, an endless frozen desert, but hidden far below your feet, buried under more than 3 kilometers of solid ice, is something that changes everything we thought we knew. Down there lies a mountain range as jagged and breathtaking as the European Alps, completely sealed away from the world above. Scientists only discovered it after scanning the ice with radar and gravity sensors, expecting to find nothing more than a smooth plateau. Instead, their readings painted a picture of towering peaks and plunging valleys, a frozen ghost of a landscape untouched for hundreds of millions of years. One of the researchers, Fausto Ferraccioli, from the British Antarctic Survey, pointed out something remarkable. These mountains aren't worn down like those on the surface. That means the ice sheet must have formed incredibly fast, sealing them away before erosion could take its toll. And that raises serious questions about how quickly Antarctica's ice can change, and what that could mean for rising sea levels if it starts melting.
The ice loss of the glacier has doubled in the last 30 years, and some scientists are thinking that it could run out.
Geologists know that massive mountain ranges like the Alps or the Himalayas are born from the collision of continents, a process so powerful that it shapes the planet for hundreds of millions of years. The Alps, for example, are young, only about 50 to 60 million years old. But the Gamburtsev Range beneath Antarctica, it might date back 500 million years, a relic from an ancient world frozen in time beneath the thickest ice on Earth. The ring of ice and fire. You would never expect one of the largest volcanic ranges on Earth to be hiding under Antarctica's ice, yet that is exactly what scientists found. So, it's the year 2017, and a team of researchers from the University of Edinburgh was scanning beneath Antarctica's surface, expecting nothing more than solid ice. But what they uncover, 2 kilometers down, is staggering. A hidden treasure of nearly 100 volcanoes. Some of these peaks tower almost 4,000 meters high, rivaling Switzerland's tallest summits. This discovery suggests that West Antarctica is home to a volcanic range even larger than the famous East African Rift.
Geothermal heat is that heat produced by the rocks of the Earth's mantle and crust. And whilst we may all intuitively think of rocks as cold,
the strange part, these volcanoes have been dormant for thousands of years. Yet scientists warn that an eruption here could be catastrophic. West Antarctica's ice sheet is already fragile, and volcanic heat could cause it to collapse faster, sending vast amounts of ice into the ocean and driving sea levels up at alarming rates. It all started with a curious idea from a student, Max van Wyck de Vries, who wondered if volcanoes might be hiding under the ice. Using ice-penetrating radar, the team mapped the frozen ground and revealed 91 volcanoes no one knew existed. Their heights range from 100 to 3,800 meters, concentrated along a 3,500-kilometer stretch known as the West Antarctic Rift System. One of the study's authors, Robert Bingham, admitted the results shocked him, and he suspects even more volcanoes may be hidden beneath the Ross ice shelf. If these sleeping giants were to wake, the effects wouldn't stop at Antarctica's borders. The loss of ice would feed directly into the oceans, accelerating sea level rise worldwide. History tells us that most volcanic activity today happens in areas recently freed from glaciers. After the last ice age, places like Iceland and Alaska saw a surge in eruptions once the ice retreated. Now, with climate change already thinning West Antarctica's ice, scientists fear the same chain reaction could unfold here. If the ice continues to melt, the reduced pressure could rouse these volcanoes from their slumber, and the world might not be ready for what follows. The South Sandwich Trench and underground rivers. You ever wonder what's hiding beneath the stormy seas near these lonely volcanic islands? That's where the South Sandwich Trench lives, keeping its secrets tight. In this far-flung corner of the South Atlantic, the South Sandwich Trench waits, hidden beside volcanic islands so isolated you could wander these waters for days without spotting another ship. For most of history, it was a blank space on the map. Then, in the late 1980s, scientists finally probed its depths with seismic mapping tools. What they found was a world born from a violent collision, the South American plate diving beneath the South Sandwich Plate, triggering earthquakes, fueling volcanoes, and reshaping the ocean floor in ways we're only beginning to understand. Reaching it is no small feat. The seas here are unforgiving. The winds roar like jet engines, and the cold cuts through metal and bone alike. And even if you make it, the trench itself holds its mysteries tight in the crushing dark. No one knows what might be moving in those black, silent waters. But the South Sandwich Trench isn't the only secret the Southern Hemisphere keeps. Thousands of miles away, beneath Antarctica's frozen skin, something extraordinary flows in complete darkness. A hidden river running for nearly 450 kilometers beneath almost a mile of solid ice. This isn't a frozen relic. It moves, alive and constant, carrying water through a vast subglacial network, its basin stretching across an area the size of France and Germany combined. Scientists only discovered it by flying radar over the ice, peeling back the surface to reveal an interconnected web of waterways untouched for millennia. The river runs beneath glaciers that are already thinning. If warming trends continue, this hidden current could speed up ice loss, pouring enough water into the ocean to raise global sea levels by several meters. The Alien Coverup. Finally, Joe Rogan uncovered Antarctica's Alien Coverup, and it is far more extensive than you could have guessed. Think about this for a second. More than 50,000 meteorites have crashed into Antarctica over the years. You can still spot footprints in the snow, but what tells the story is the slow, steady melting of glaciers. That's the real proof that something massive is shifting here. One rock, discovered in the Allen Hills back in 1984, turned out to be one of the most important Antarctic finds ever. Scientists traced its origin and uncovered something mind-blowing: fossilized remains of prehistoric life, trapped inside a snow-covered stone.
So you're saying that as the ice evaporates, as the ice disappears from the top, the meteorites are kind of left sitting right
lying there on the surface.
Antarctica isn't just cold, it's extreme beyond imagination. Even Japan's iconic Mount Fuji couldn't break through its 3-meter-thick snow at peak season. Only about 4,000 scientists and military personnel call it home at any time. This place is the last true frontier, the very spot ancient maps once warned us about, with phrases like, "Here be monsters." Since explorers first laid eyes on it roughly 250 years ago, Antarctica has raised more questions than answers. Beneath all that ice, some say, lie not just geological secrets, but evidence of ancient and possibly non-human activity. Joe Rogan has talked about the rumors that it might even house an extraterrestrial base that's been here for ages. Back in July 2018, journalist Linda Moulton Howe interviewed a military witness who asked to remain anonymous. This person said they found an octagonal structure poking 18 feet above the ice, with much more buried underneath. The massive doors, heavy as they seemed, swung open with a gentle push. Outside, it was 40 degrees below zero. Inside, a warm 70, with walls glowing an unnatural lime green, no visible light source, and covered in strange hieroglyphics. Getting inside Antarctica is a battle against nature itself. Temperatures often drop 50 degrees below freezing. Survival is almost a miracle. And then there's the odd sighting near Two Hummock Island, home to Bosch Peak and Modev Peak. Near Modev, something that looked like an alien spacecraft was spotted. A domed top, wide rim, metallic sheen lying on its side. Social media users estimated it at 12 meters across, swearing its perfect curvature couldn't be natural ice erosion. One user flat out called it obviously a craft, pointing to its precise shape and a perfect circular depression behind it. Skeptics chalk it up to ice, but Joe Rogan and the others haven't let that quiet the buzz. There's also talk from a hacker who spoke at a United States UFO disclosure event, claiming they'd seen powerful machines in Antarctica capable of contacting alien craft far out in space. The Ice Cube neutrino detector, they say, does more than listen. It can transmit. It's supposedly the largest directed energy weapon system on the planet, hidden in plain sight at the South Pole. Some researchers think there's something darker under that ice. Billy Carson, a well-known UFO investigator, points to a NASA photo showing a pyramid in the Ellsworth Mountains. He believes it's proof of an ancient evil lurking beneath Antarctica's frozen surface. Even astronaut Buzz Aldrin warned about a great evil in Antarctica, something Joe Rogan has brought up in his discussions. And just recently, a NASA scientist dropped a revelation that's got believers in extraterrestrial life buzzing, the kind of information that will literally give you goosebumps. So yeah, Joe Rogan finally peeled back the curtain on Antarctica's alien secrets, and the story is just getting started. Aliens in the deep. NASA's already stumbled upon strange tunnels deep beneath the surface. But here's where it gets even more eyebrow-raising. The American Space Agency has also been accused of keeping quiet about alien encounters. According to media reports, Dr. Kevin Schaefer, a respected researcher at NASA's Ames Research Center, believes our oceans may already be home to extraterrestrials, living quietly, watching us. During a podcast, Theories of Everything, he explained it like this: if aliens are here, the ocean floor would be the perfect hideout. They could build bases, live comfortably, and monitor everything happening on Earth without us even noticing. Think about it. Most of our planet is covered in water, yet we've barely scratched the surface of what lies beneath. If these beings came from a water-based world, our oceans would be like paradise to them. And according to Kevin, they'd be intelligent enough to thrive there. But here's another twist. Not all uninvited visitors to remote places are from the stars. Some come buzzing in with wings. On the base of the stairs leading to Deck 5 of Australia's newest Antarctic icebreaker, the RSV Nuyina, lay a strange little corpse. At first glance, it might look alien, but it wasn't an interstellar traveler. It was a housefly. Somehow, this tiny creature had hitched a ride all the way from the Darwin River, squeezed through an open hatch, and made its way inside the ship's belly. A few days later, it died from stress and the bitter cold. Normally, a fly wouldn't stand a chance in Antarctica.
All of a sudden, I'm looking at them, and one of them takes off by itself and flies at incredible speed to the next mountaintop.
Below 14 degrees Fahrenheit, they barely move, let alone fly. An icy fortress of waves and currents that has kept Antarctica isolated for around 30 million years. But here's the concern. Antarctica is changing fast. In some areas, it's warming 10 times faster than the global average. In February 2020, the Esperanza base in Argentina recorded a record-breaking temperature of 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists warn that by the year 2050, parts of the continent could warm by a couple more degrees, warm enough for invasive species, even houseflies, to survive. And humans are making it easier for intruders to arrive. Since the 1800s, explorers and researchers have brought supplies, and sometimes stowaway species, into the last great wilderness. Today, only a small number of countries maintain permanent research stations there, but tourism is booming. In the 2019 to 2020 season, 75,000 visitors arrived, a 35% increase from the previous year. No matter where people go, pests tend to follow. Even with strict biosecurity protocols under the Antarctic Treaty and Madrid Protocol, nothing is foolproof. Antarctica has been sealed off, its ecosystems untouched. If an extraterrestrial, or even just the wrong insect, were to make it in, the consequences could be devastating. In the cold. Out on the icy edge of the continent, a quiet battle was unfolding inside 2 gray shipping containers. On the eastern coast of Antarctica's peninsula, there's a small cluster of storage containers and sheds sitting in a rare ice-free oasis. Around it, a wild mix of creatures roam, including a big colony of Adelie penguins on nearby islands. This spot, called the Davis Facility, is Australia's southernmost outpost on the mainland. Back in 2014, something pretty wild happened there. An alien invasion. Not the kind from space, but one that creeped in silently and took over the hydroponic setup inside 2 gray shipping containers.
Somehow connected to the discovery that cosmic rays are emanating from the frozen continent.
In May of that same year, the expeditioners walked across the snowy grounds to grab fresh greens for dinner. When they opened the door, it was like stepping into another world. Leafy veggies neatly arranged, the soft sound of water dripping, and the unmistakable warmth of the space. But then, something caught their eyes. Andy Sharman, the environmental manager at the Australian Antarctic Division, revealed it wasn't a mat at all. It was thousands of tiny invertebrates swarming everywhere. The Davis station had been invaded, and not just a little. These tiny arthropods multiplied fast in the warm, humid environment. This part of Antarctica had never seen anything like these flea-like creatures called cons, which normally live in much warmer climates. If they escaped, they could seriously threaten the fragile local ecosystem. The scientists didn't waste a second. The station flipped into elimination mode. They moved so fast, even the freshly picked veggies that made it to the kitchen were wrapped up and burned. The reaction team sprayed alcohol all over the place, then put the containers through extreme freeze-thaw cycles. The heat triggered any eggs to hatch, but then the freezing temperatures killed the young. Strict quarantine measures followed. A few months after the discovery, the containers were shipped back to Australia for good. An inquiry later found the pests probably hitched a ride on plant feed. Since then, the cons haven't been spotted at Davis. But other stations have faced similar invasions. Keeping Antarctica safe from these sneaky invaders is a constant battle. These tiny creatures are experts at hiding. The Australian Antarctic Division's biggest win? Getting rid of the cons at Davis. But the fight to protect the continent from non-native species goes on. No matter how remote the place, the risk never really disappears. Battle at Casey Station. What if I told you Antarctica has been fighting off mushroom flies sneaking in through the most unlikely places for decades? Sitting on Australia's slice of the Antarctic Peninsula, Casey Station has been locked in a battle with a pesky mushroom fly infestation lurking in its sewage system for over 20 years. This tiny critter probably hitched a ride hidden in vegetables, and despite countless attempts, it just won't quit. Now, back in 2017, a Polish expedition found another alien fly chilling in the sewage of an Antarctic Peninsula station.
That cosmic rays were measured coming out of the Earth begs the question, how is such a thing possible?
This fly couldn't even fly well or survive extreme cold, but somehow it escaped and spread. Proof that these invaders keep threatening the continent's fragile ecosystem. The invertebrates that sneak around human bases can be tracked and ideally removed. But there's a catch. Countless intruders find clever ways to bypass our defenses, often traveling in ways we can't even detect. With global warming warming up Antarctic waters, it's not just land we have to protect. The ocean becomes a whole new battleground in this fight against alien invaders. Luckily, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, the planet's strongest ocean current, spins clockwise around Antarctica, blocking most marine life from reaching these southern waters. But humans? We cracked that code over 100 years ago. Icebreakers and tourist ships now navigate these treacherous seas, opening the door for non-native species to hitch rides from ports all over the globe. Arlie McCarthy, a PhD student at Cambridge studying Antarctic marine life, points out that ships visiting Antarctica have been everywhere else on Earth, so potential invasion pathways are endless. The pressure on Antarctica's delicate ecosystems grows every year. In 2020, scientists found mussels that had settled on the Antarctic Peninsula, mussels originally from Patagonia. They likely arrived stowed away on a ship's hull, finding a new home in Fieldes Bay on the West Antarctic Peninsula. Tourists now make up over half the ships visiting the peninsula, with about a third being scientific missions, and both are on the rise. Researchers are racing to figure out which species are the biggest invasion threats, currently threatening Antarctica's waters, that could become threats as climate change advances. One invader already causing trouble is the Northern Pacific Sea Star, probably brought to Tasmanian waters by a ship from the Northern Hemisphere. Scientists still don't know exactly what rising sea temperatures mean for these invasions, but machine learning studies offer hope by showing that Antarctica's extreme cold and distance keep the chance of non-native species settling pretty low, at least until the year 2100. Still, vigilance is key. Keeping a watchful eye out for newcomers is critical if we want to keep the aliens at bay. And if these aliens do arrive, eradicating them would be a nightmare. Costly, complicated, and potentially more damaging to the environment than the invaders themselves. So, the best plan? Stop the invasion before it even begins. But the question remains, can we really pull that off? Anyways, if you want to stay updated on stories like this and uncover more hidden secrets of our planet, consider subscribing to our channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.